All right, guys, here's the study guide for the answer key for the second study guide for your test tomorrow on Friday. All right, I'm going to go through this thing kind of quick, but I am going to, this is me making the answer key that I'm going to put online, so I am going to be pretty thorough in my answers. So here we go. Identify the given relation is a function and then explain your reasoning. So this first one, this is a function, and the reason, as is anytime you have a function, is that each input has exactly one output. What I mean by that is the inputs that are on the left side, they do not go to different numbers. So -6 goes to -8, 1 goes to -8, 2 goes to -5, and 3 goes to 7. None of these numbers go to a second output. So, for example, if 3 went to 7, but it also went to 5, that would be not a function because 3 would then have two outputs, not one. So, yeah, that's it. Each input has exactly one output. For number 2, this is not a function. The reason this is not a function is because the input of 4 has two different outputs. And I'm just going to list those. One of the outputs would be -1, and the other output would be -3. So that's going into quite a lot of detail. You don't really need that much detail. You could just tell me that not every input has exactly one output, or one of the inputs has more than one output. Any of that would work. All right. So that takes care of 2. Number 3, very simple. This is a function. The reason it's a function is it passes the vertical line test. So the relation passes the vertical line test. Okay. And what that tells me, that it passes the vertical line test, what that tells me is that for each input, there's only going to be one output. All right. So that is a valid response here. Number 4, this is a tough one, but it's a lot like the first study guide. So the independent variable, which is your x, represents the months of the years. The dependent variable, which would be your y, represents the amount of rainfall. Honestly, the amount of rainfall doesn't really matter. If I make a function table where I've got x and y, think about this. If independent variable is months, let's say January. Well, that's the first month of the year. We'll call it 1. February, that's going to be 2. March would be 3, so on and so forth. And it'll keep going. Your inputs are not going to repeat. It's not going to go like, okay, January, February, March, January, April, May. It's not going to repeat. So since our inputs are all going to be different, there's no way that any input would have more than one output. So this is a function. And I'm just going to use the explanation of the, general, is it a function, is it not? I'm just going to say each input will have exactly one output. Because again, the months are not going to repeat. So really it doesn't matter what our rainfall totals are. All right. That is the first page. Moving on. Okay, Jasmine wants to order some movies on Blu-ray. 1 point for choosing the correct store, 2 points for the correct explanation and work, and then 1 point for complete sentences. Okay, so this is discounted movies right here, and then Movie Saver is this information. So let me find the discounted movies information first. So as I was helping people along with this throughout the day, I think maybe that there was kind of some confusion. So let me explain. These numbers that you see on this graph, the 35, the 62, and the 89, those are actually the Y values of those points. So since these are ordered, or since these are points, they have an X and a Y value. So really, this is a different color, maybe red will work. So this is going to be the ordered pair 335. This will be the ordered pair 662. And this will be the ordered pair 989. All right. So those ordered pairs, what you can do is you can either use the slope equation, which is the y2, the y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 over x sub 1, or you can find the rise over the run. And that's probably what I'm going to do here. I'm not really, just for the sake of time, I'm not really going to do all of these problems, all the different ways that you can. So this one, for me, is going to be faster. I'm going to find my rise and my run. So my rise is going to be the difference between 62 and 35, which is 27. And in my run, since I'm going from 3 to 6, my run is just going to be 3. All right. So if I'm looking for my slope, that's going to be what I did was the rise over the run, which in this case is going to be 27 over 3, which means that my slope is 9. All right. Now I need to find my y-intercept. So what you can do is you could plug your slope back into y equals mx plus b, and then substitute in an x or a y for the ordered pair. What a student earlier today thought of was, well, can't you just kind of go backwards? Yeah, I mean, you can, right? So if I go from this 35 point, that change is still going to be 3, okay? Because the rise and the run are still going to be the same thing. So then that means I'm going to have to go down 27 to find my my y-intercept. And the reason I say that this is finding my y-intercept is because when we go left 3 from that point of 335, it's going to give us an x value of 0. So it'll give us some x value of 0 something. When I take 35, which is my y coordinate, and subtract 27, I get 8. So the point where our graph is going to go through that y-axis, meaning what is our y-intercept, is at 0, 8. So that means my y-intercept is 8. So in terms of creating a function for this thing, it's going to be y equals our slope, which is 9, times the x plus our y-intercept of 8. Okay, so that gets me information for discounted movies. Sorry, lost my train of thought. We'll call this, just to keep the colors consistent. Okay, so that's discounted movies. Then we have Movie Saver, and all of this information can be found in the problem. So it says Movie Saver charges $10 for each Blu-ray and a one-time shipping fee of $4. Anytime you have something that says a one-time fee, that's going to be your y-intercept. So we have a one-time fee of $4, and it's going to charge us $10 per movie. All right. So all the information that you need to create this function for Movie Savers is in that sentence. You just need to read the sentence. It says if Jasmine wants to order 11 Blu-rays, which company should they use? Here's where you're just going to substitute in. So the X is going to be our Blu-rays, and it does say in our graph here, X is Blu-rays. So to find the total for Movie Savers, we're going to take 10 times 11 and add 4 to that. 10 times 11, make sure my calculations are accurate, is 110, Plus 4 is 114. Okay. So the total cost for Movie Savers is going to be $114 for 11 Blu-rays. For discount movies, 9 times the 11 Blu-rays plus 8. So 9 times 11 is 99. Plus 8, I got 107. Okay, so it's $107 for discount movies. Um, obviously, obviously, Jasmine should use discounted movies because you're going to want to pay less and get more. That's, I don't know, kind of capitalism, I guess. So what I would say is, yeah, Jasmine should use discounted movies. Because it will be $7 less than Movie Saver. Okay. There are several, I mean, like, as with all these interpretations and explanations, there's a lot of different ways that you can say the same thing. This is just how I'm choosing to explain mine. All right. Okay. Number 6. Compare the rate of change for Mallory and Thomas. A couple things before I get into this information. Rate of change, also called the slope. Initial value, also called the y-intercept. So just in case I say some different things here. So Thomas was given the following table in math class. So he got x's, y's, okay. Mallory was given the equation, perfect. I'm going to color code this thing again. So Thomas's information will be here. Mallory's information will be here, okay. So for Thomas, we need to find the change in y over the change in x. So his slope is going to be the change in y's. These will be 4 plus 4, positive 4. His x's will be plus 1. No, you can't really see that. That's okay. So change in y is 4 over change in x is 1. So his slope is 4. His y-intercept, you could plug that into the slope-intercept form equation. I'm not going to because I see that my x here is 0. And anytime x is 0, the y coordinate is going to be your y-intercept. So his y-intercept is 3. Okay? For Mallory's is really easy because Mallory's got a slope, or her equation is in slope-intercept form. So her slope is 5/2, which I'm actually going to simplify that into something that's kind of a whole number to compare to Thomas's. 5 divided by 2 is going to be 2.5. Okay. And then her starting value is a -1 because that's the y-intercept. All right. So let's compare. Let's compare. Who's given the greater initial value, the greater y-intercept? That would be Thomas. Explain your reasoning. Thomas started at 3. I don't know the context of this problem, so I'm just going to say he started at 3. And Mallory started at -1. Okay, and don't argue with me on this. You might say, well, Thomas started at -1 too. No, this is not where Thomas is starting from. The starting value, or the initial value, is the y-intercept. Okay, by definition, the y-intercept is going to be where x equals 0. So Thomas did not start at -1. Thomas started at 3 because that's where x is 0. Glad we wrapped that up. Who is given the greater rate of change, which would be the slope? Also Thomas. Thomas's rate of change is 4, and Mallory's is, you could put 5/2. You could also put 2.5. I'm just going to put 5/2 so it'll show it better on the answer key. All right. So there we go. Oops. There we go. All right, cool. Takes care of that. I believe we're on to the last page. Function A and function B are linear functions. This is going to come back in a second here, okay? That's kind of a big deal, and those of you who are taking a look at this and have asked me about this in class today, you're going to see why, all right? So if we take, well, let's see, what is the question saying? So we're looking for slopes, so we're not even worried about y-intercepts, anything like that. If we're looking at function A and you're trying to find a slope, slope is a constant rate of change. We go from -2 to get to 5, that's +7. If we go from 5 to get to 6, that's +1. That is not constant, okay? Let me just do the y's here real quick, and then I'll show you. It's not a trick, but I'll explain what I'm doing. -8 to get to 13 is +21, and 13 to get to 16 is +3, okay? Also not constant, but the problem is telling us that these are linear functions. So it is saying, no, I know that this table does not look like it's constant, but it is. Those of you who I worked with today, you'll recognize this, but what about if we just did this? What about if we only looked at 2 of these points? Well, then I have a slope, and I'm going to separate this a little bit. But then I have a slope of my change in y, which would be 21, over my change in x. 21 divided by 7 is 3. All right. What about, though, if I used these two? Let me erase that, actually. What about if I said, okay, forget these. What about if I just use the bottom two? Okay. Well, if that's the case, our change in y is going to be 3, and our change in x is 1. Do your math correctly, though, you're going to come out with the same slope, okay? So it's times like these that, like, you don't look at the whole thing, because if you look at the whole picture, it's going to say, well, this is not constant, all right? You have to understand that if the problem is telling you something is linear, it is linear. In that case, just pick 2 ordered pairs, okay? Doesn't matter, just pick 2 of the ordered pairs. This is going to confuse people who are just looking at the answer key, but that's okay. +1, +3, okay? Because 3 divided by 1, 3 divided by 1 is still 3, just like 21 divided by 7 is 3, okay? So it is linear. In any case, there's that, all right? Okay, so for the second function, your slope here is going to be the one that's attached right here. Your slope is 1. Don't forget that anytime you have a variable without a coefficient in front of it, that coefficient is 1. So which one of these is true is going to be A. Slope of A is greater than the slope of B. So that one's true. Okay. So there is two. I just want to, because it's very easy to guess on this. You got a 50% shot at getting it right. But it does say that there is 1 point for correct work. So you do need to find the correct slopes for A and for B. So make sure that you remember that for tomorrow's test. Number 8, this is the last question. So we need to order the functions from least to greatest by the slope and the y-intercept. So I'm going to find all these. For A, I'm going to start with the y-intercept, which is where your graph crosses the y-axis. It's very easy to find. It's the point here. So your y-intercept is 4. From our slope, we need to pick a crosshair because we actually have to use the rise and the run. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to go over. Now, I'm counting by 2's here. So one box is not 1. One box is actually 2. So I'm going from 4 to 6 would be 2, to 8 would be 2 more. So my rise is 4. And my run, my x's are also going by 2. So it would be 4 over 2, which gets me a slope of 2. All right. For function b, this is in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So your slope in this problem is going to be negative 1/2. Your y-intercept is going to be 3. Yeah, that's right. That's it. Okay. Function c. First off, let's see if any of these, or if these are constant, so we can find that constant rate of change, otherwise known as the slope. So negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. That's all plus 1. This is minus 2, 4, 6, 8, minus 2. So you've got a negative 2 over 1, which is a slope of negative 2. And your y-intercept for this one is actually, again, very easy to find if you know what you're looking for. It's when x is 0. What is y when x is 0? It's going to be negative 4 on this one. All right, so there's all the information that we have. Order the functions from least to greatest by the slope. So the smallest slope, A is positive C. C is the smallest because it's the largest negative number. After that, it would be function B, because negative half is smaller than 2. Yeah. So function A is the next one, because this is the only one with a positive slope. And then order the functions from least to greatest by the y-intercept. The y-intercept of function C is negative 4. That's the largest negative. The next smallest y-intercept is function B. And then the y-intercept for A is 4. So that's what I got there. Just make sure with my answer keys. Yep, that'll do it. Okay. Make sure you study for this. I've got extra Delta math practice if you want. I would recommend it. But your test is tomorrow. All right. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.